Welcome back to the Viking Update Show starring John Krawczynski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. This is a Talk North production. Best way to listen to the show is to subscribe to your favorite podcast app or go to TalkNorth.com. Of course, we're also doing this show and the John Krawczynski Show, our Timberwolves show, on YouTube. You can check them out that way as well. We're transitioning some of our shows to YouTube, and who knows what will happen in the future, but we appreciate you watching and or listening. The Viking Update Show is presented to you by Giggly THC Beverages and Onyx Hunt. We'll tell you more about them in a little bit. And we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio.
Scott for Aquarius, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Yes, water is essential, but what if it came with sparkle and zero hassle? With Connecticut, enjoy softer skin, shiny fixtures, spotless dishes, and worry-free drinking water. It's home services made easy with 36 months, 0% financing during our State Fair special. Schedule your free water analysis at AquariusHomeservices.com. Financing based on credit approval. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Hey, this is Randy Shaver. Along with Kevin Gorg, we host the show Fantasy Huddle on Talk North. Each week, we're going to break down the matchups for the NFL season and try to give you the best chance to win your fantasy football games each and every week. Join us for Fantasy Huddle on Talk North.
All right, John, the easiest thing to talk about in the NFL or at any level of football is quarterback. And thank you to the Vikings for giving us the opportunity to talk a lot more about the quarterback, even when J.J. McCarthy doesn't play, because suddenly we have intrigue at the position, even beyond the young starter.
Yeah, we do. I mean, you look at the way that things have unfolded in this preseason, and I think Sam Howell has had some moments that have been good, but also certainly last week, some moments that give you pause, and that opens the door for Max Brosmer to step in there and really make a push for that number 2 spot in the pecking order. And then we can, you can get into not just what we've seen from him on the field, but the idea of going into a season with high expectations and a very young starting quarterback, and then having possibly an undrafted rookie as the backup quarterback. I mean, it's a fascinating discussion to have, and I'm sure that Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Wes Phillips and everyone involved is really kind of laboring over this right now, because Max Brosmer has made this a conversation and Sam Howell has made this a conversation. So let's just have it.
Yeah, and I might have a different view than a lot of people. I think when they traded for Howell, he was locked in as the 2, and they considered Rippon, an excess player, and they considered Brosmer a project. I think Rippon has basically stayed the same. I think Howell really shocked them on Saturday, because that wasn't just, listen, interceptions happen, bad plays happen. You're playing against the number 1 defense. You're playing with backups around you. All he had to do was look professional, and I think they would have written off any results. But he didn't look professional. He pulled the ball down and panicked when he had open receivers, and he had a little time. And when he did have time, he threw completely unprofessional pass. He just threw a pass you can't throw. You cannot throw just I don't care where this ball ends up, I'm just getting rid of it kind of throw. You can't do that. So I think he might have cost himself the job. We'll see what happens on Friday, if he can redeem himself, or maybe O'Connell feels like he can coach him up. But I think he put his job in jeopardy. I don't believe they will go into the season with a starter who's never taken an NFL snap and a backup who has never faced an NFL number 1 defense in any situation. I don't believe they'll go with Brosmer as the main backup. I do think they like him a lot. I do think he'll be the 3rd quarterback. I think he's won that job. So I think the competition is between Howell, Rippon, and whoever they can get on waivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, certainly like the setup that we see all of the time when you do have a young quarterback like J.J. McCarthy is to have him and then have the veteran, steely backup quarterback who's been through the wars, not only just as someone who you think that if McCarthy really struggles or gets injured, that you can throw in there for a few weeks and that he won't just kind of drowned amid all of the pressure, but also just to have in the room every week as a sounding board, as, kind of someone that helps McCarthy kind of just process what he's seeing out there and game plan and all of those things. And so you're right. That makes the most sense, whether it is Howell who solidifies himself or they go and get someone else. What I wonder about with Brosmer, with the third quarterback job, is I don't think that there was any consideration coming into camp that they were going to carry three quarterbacks. I don't think so. And now you are at a point where I do think that Brosmer's played well enough and put enough on tape, and quarterback position is such a hard one to find that I don't think you could sneak him through to the practice squad. I just think you put that guy on waivers, and some quarterback needy team is going to pick him up and at least just give him a year to see if what they're seeing in these preseason games is worthy of further development. And so, then you're talking about burning a roster spot on a third quarterback. Not the end of the world. You can certainly do that and get by with it, but it does change the chemistry of your roster by one spot and one important spot now that he has played the way that he has for the first couple of weeks here in the preseason.
I'm really curious that there's no way to test the theory. We'll find out or we won't find out. I do wonder, I think NFL teams, I don't know how much they will buy into Brosmer as much as the team that has had him around camp, has developed him, has seen him in practices. I really wonder how other teams will look at him. All the other teams are looking the same thing. They all have young quarterbacks they're interested in. They all don't want to, use up extra space on a quarterback who might not play. And he only had 1 year of major college football. I think he's played well enough that other teams should want him. I just don't know if they will.
Yeah, it's a good point, because he has not just exploded. Right. He hasn't had an unbelievable first two games, but he's had impressive games. And I think that for us watching it up close, we are seeing maybe a little bit more of, the anticipatory throw. Like, that to me is his greatest strength so far, is throwing receivers open the way that he has on a couple of occasions. And they've been really impressive. And so if you're a scout and you're not watching every single play, and you're just, you're kind of looking broad brushes at what, at the box scores, maybe at the game tape here or there, maybe it's not going to be something that just leaps out and grabs you as an opposing, you're the Jaguars, scouts, you're kind of in charge of looking at the rest of the league and seeing if there's anybody out there intriguing. Maybe you look past that or look over some of those throws, but it is possible we're overvaluing him just a little bit. That said, I do think that if there is one position where you really stand to risk of losing someone for a few plays, it is quarterback. I just think that it is such it's the most important position. Everyone is always looking for those developmental guys. And I do think that if other teams are watching closely enough, you can see enough to be like, that's worth taking a look at longer, because, I'm as surprised as anyone. I certainly watched him with the Gophers last year and thought he was a solid quarterback, and thought he had some really good moments, but I was not expecting him to. I actually think he's looked better, in these NFL games, in these preseason games, just in terms of command, in terms of decision making, in terms of making all of the throws that he needs to make to stick on a roster. And so, how risky it would be to try and get him through waivers to the practice squad, I don't know, but I definitely think it is a step up from your average, we got this guy, let's just get him through to the practice squad type of player. I think he's done enough to really merit consideration from other teams.
It'd be very interesting to see how they handle that. If they really think he's a player, and if they don't think they can get him through the practice squad, then that's where, as an organization, you got to bite the bullet, keep him on the roster, and say, okay, we might miss one special teams tackle. or we might have a problem someplace else because we're making this move. We're going to have to be good enough to make up for it. A couple of other thoughts on this subject. I was at the Gopher football press conferences earlier this week, and Greg Harbaugh, their offensive coordinator, was asked about Brosmer, and he said the one thing he was sure about with Brosmer was he can figure things out. He's so smart, he's so diligent, he's so analytical that if you explain something to him, if you present him with something, Harbaugh said he was not going to have trouble adapting to the complexity of the NFL, understanding the offenses, understanding the schemes, understanding the coaching. And sometimes, let's face it, sometimes college is all about dropping back, waiting for somebody to get open, throwing it to them, and it has nothing to do with the way the NFL game is played. I do think the way the Gophers ran their offense last year, the way Brosmer played, it was a pro-style set of problems he was being asked to dissect, and he did it pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that has just really impressed me, beyond the anticipatory throws, is like he's one of those guys where you're watching him within the game and he looks comfortable. He just looks like, and to Harbaugh's point, he looks like he has a complete understanding of what he has to do and where his guys are going to be and where the throws are going against certain defenses. But then so many young quarterbacks, especially undrafted late round quarterbacks, are looking like when they're dropping back in the pocket, even in the preseason, they look like they are in scramble mode, that they are just rushing around, that everything is going so fast, and that it's one read, and if it's not there, he's getting out and running and just trying to hold on for dear life. But with Brosmer, the way that he is settled back in the pocket, the way that his feet are calm, the way that he does not bounce around, and he doesn't look chaotic at all. It does not look like any of this is overwhelming to him, that any of it is too fast for him. And the fact that that part of it has come as quickly as it seems to have come, I do think it speaks to that processing that Harbaugh is talking about. I also think, Jim, that it seems like he has plenty of arm.
Yeah, he does.
I didn't know exactly what to think about. Can he make all of the NFL throws? But man, there hasn't been one time that I've watched and said, nope, just doesn't have quite the cannon that you need out there. I mean, that the physical tools seem to be there, as well, at least from a pure throwing standpoint. And so, with all of that said, I think that O'Connell is smart enough to recognize that the kind of demeanor that he has and the control that he has there is uncommon for someone of his pedigree. And so that leads me to believe that we're headed toward some scenario where he just stays on the roster in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I want to get to Rippon next. One more point on Brosmer. The funny thing about us all talking about Brosmer having so much poise, and he does, is his first half for the Gophers, he looked like he was scared to death. The first half he played at a major Division I college program, he looked like he was freaked out. And then as that game went on, he progressed. He got better. He looked good by the end of the game, made much better throws. Then he had a really good season. But, poise is not just something you're born with. You can develop it. You can work on it. He looks like a much more poised guy in his first NFL preseason games than he did his first half against a mediocre opponent, as a Gopher.
Yeah. And I think part of that, I wonder if just part of that is the natural progression as well, in terms of, that was a transferring from a lower program to Big Ten, and understanding that this was a huge opportunity for him. And that one seemed to be like, in the moment, he did get a little too hyped and was like, breathing heavy, going a mile a minute, and just trying to like settle in. And I do think that maybe some of the success that he had as the season went along in that environment, running that offense in that conference, all of those things, maybe just further cemented the belief that he has in himself, because it does not seem like there have been the same jitters from college football to NFL preseason that there were from the lower level college to Minnesota. And that doesn't mean, like, if he were ever to get thrust into a game in his rookie season for, in case of emergency or whatever, maybe that all changes and maybe he reverts back to that a little bit. But he just does seem to have a calmness and a confidence within himself that, hey, I've done this before. I've made big jumps in competition before. I can handle this. And so that's been fun to watch.
It has. All right. More on Rypien, more on the wide receivers and the defensive backs. Want to let you know that the last couple of nights, my wife and I have been just kind of watching movies, TVs late at night before we go to bed. And, a few nights ago, I had a shot of mezcal. We recently took a trip to Mexico, and I brought back a bottle of mezcal, and I really like the stuff. And, half the time I drink something like that, I feel fine the next day. About half the time I don't feel fine the next day. So I've been in recovery mode the last few days. And one of the things that helps me recover is drinking Giggly THC beverages, because I know I'm not going to have a hangover. I know I can sleep well. I know it's healthy. I know that, it's fruit juice, ashwagandha, ginseng. It tastes great. Again, I like the cocktails. My wife likes the teas. They also have seltzers, and now they are adding to their line of gummies and candies and fun stuff you can have. Go to giggly.com, find what you like. Use the promo code Giggly North, Gigli North, to get up to 50% off your first order. After that, if you follow them on socials, you get other discount codes. You can find them in Quick Trips. You can find them in a lot of grocery stores and liquor stores. I just order online. It's delivered right to my door. And I'm really shocked how much I knew I liked the product. I tried it before we ever started advertising with them, or they advertised with us. But what I'm surprised is just how often I use it and how good I feel the next morning when I do use it. So Giggly THC Beverages, giggly.com, promo code Giggly North. Also want to talk to you about, as the fishing days might be dwindling here, at least the non-ice fishing days might be dwindling. Let Onyx Fish help you find the next best bite. The Fish app offers the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your success. Use the Fish app to find new places to fish and sort lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potential. Onyx Fish also shows you hot spots, lake by lake regulations, and private and public land ownership information. Download Onyx Fish on the App Store or go to onyxmaps.com/fish to get more information about the app that is changing the game. All right, another note on Rypien. Howell, even if he was playing well enough to be the backup, I'm not sure he's the great mentor you want in that room, because he's just a run around and make crazy plays kind of guy at his best. Rypien, and I covered Rypien. I'm old. I covered Rypien's father on the run up to the Super Bowl that he won here at the Metrodome.
Were you at that Super Bowl, Jim?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I was our Vikings beat writer at the start to be, and then as soon as the Vikings lost in the playoffs, actually, no, that was the next year they lost in the playoffs. That was a bad year. That was the year that caused Burnsy to retire, and they bring in Denny Green. So that year, as soon as the Vikings were eliminated after the last regular season, I became kind of our Super Bowl correspondent, spent like 3 weeks in Washington covering Joe Gibbs and Rypien and all that. And that was also the Super Bowl where Thurman Thomas ran out for having forgotten his helmet. Couldn't find his helmet, couldn't play the first snap. Yeah. Anyway, Mark Rypien was not a great athlete. He was a very smart quarterback. He won a Super Bowl, did not continue that success, but he was good enough to win a Super Bowl.
Great year that year. He was unbelievable.
Incredible year that year. And, so Brett Rypien has seen some football. He might be the better mentor figure in that room if they choose to stick with him.
Yeah. And I remember kind of coming into camp, some of the discussion about that quarterback room was one of the strengths that Rypien brought to the group was his overall understanding of the offense, his familiarity with O'Connell, and that in the whole system. And I just think that there's a lot of respect for the way that he goes about his business and just the overall understanding of what he's seen out there. And so in the absence of someone who you know is going to be able to step in. And like, I think the standard is always, if your starting quarterback misses 4 games, can you go 2-2? And I don't know if Brett Rippon could get them to 2-2 in that situation or not. But what you do know is that I think Vikings coaches feel very good about how he can help the preparation in game during the week, scouting, feedback on what JJ McCarthy is doing and seeing, on the field, in the huddle, all of those things. And in many respects, I do think that that's just an enormous component for what you need in that room, this season, because I think that the plan, obviously, with JJ McCarthy is he's going to be the guy going forward for the next however long. But, so I do think that he's going to get even more sort of rope to make mistakes, to learn on the job, than a lot of quarterbacks would get. And so in that scenario, you have to have people around him who can help him decipher what he's seeing, both in the game, during the game, when he's on the sideline, and then in the meeting rooms and on the practice field during the week. And Brett Rippon brings that for sure. Does he have enough of the physical ability to make the Vikings pick him over Sam Howell, who at least has a little bit of a track record and a resume, in real NFL games? That is the question. I don't know, in terms of what the Vikings are thinking about, but from just the pure support JJ McCarthy standpoint, I think he can do that without question.
So when you look at the possibilities of getting somebody in a low-level trade or off waivers around the NFL, let's face it, the options aren't great. If another team's giving up on a quarterback, they're telling you something about him. So of all the not great names out there, my favorite is one that people will be surprised by. I would love to see Mitchell Trubisky as a backup quarterback here. If you look at his stats, like you look at Sam Howell, and we remember the highlight plays, and then you look at his stats, and more interceptions than touchdowns is a big red flag. And he has more interceptions than touchdowns. You look at Trubisky, his touchdown to interception ratio ain't bad. He's a very good runner. He's been in multiple offenses now. He's seen a lot. He's athletic. He might be the kind of guy who can come in and run around, make some plays for you. It's not, again, I'm not saying he's a great quarterback. I'm not saying you would want him to start 6 games in a year, but of all the people out there, when you actually start looking at the stats, he's as good an option as anybody if he became available either on waivers or for a low round draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be on. I don't have a better option out there than that, and I agree with you, Jim. I think that he is the kind of profile that you would want for that spot, in terms of someone who is still young enough and you feel good enough about to throw in there for a few games because he has done it. And he's, you can kind of make jokes about, well, he was chosen over Patrick Mahomes and all that stuff, of course. And his career has not panned out the way that you would hope someone who was drafted where he was drafted would pan out. But it's also not been an abject disaster. Like, he has done enough to make you think that he's going to be in the league for as long as he wants to be in it, essentially. Will he be starting ever again? We'll see, in a full-time job, but like, he will have a backup role somewhere because of that. And I'm watching the Bills Hard Knocks series, and there is, I think, a real competition that he's in for that spot. So it is conceivable that either the Bills would look to move him in a trade or to, or cut him, waive him, if the other guy, my name's escaping me right now, but if the other guy beats him out. And so, that's an option. I mean, I'd look at Buffalo, because I know, they have a good competition going on for that backup spot behind Josh Allen. And the other guy who I just can't remember right now would be another. Yeah, Mike White. Yeah. I mean, he's another one where just like he's done it, he's been in it. Could you rely on him for just a couple of games? Yeah, something like that. Like, you're not going to get
Kirk Cousins,
Jeff Hostetler. Yeah, Kirk Cousins, Jeff Hostetler. You're not going to get that kind of promise. You're going to have to give something to get something. And so Trubisky would fit that very well, I think. Yes.
All right. We will now get to the receivers and the defensive backs. And as the regular season approaches here, we'll start doing more preview stuff, start looking at the division and the league a little bit more. Right now, I want to ask you, how many men's clothing stores have you gone into where you can buy a bow tie for the tux you're going to wear at your daughter's wedding and the nicest swimsuit you've ever owned? I had that experience going to Twill in the Dining Galleria, twillmn.com, Twill in the Dining Galleria, Twill by Scott Dayton. Walked in, and they're just so good at what they do. They're all experts at this stuff. I walked in and said, yeah, I need a bow tie for my daughter's wedding. They said, how about this one? My wife said, oh, let's try this one. I walk out with a beautiful bow tie, and somebody's have to teach me how to tie it, but they can help with that too. And then we went on a vacation recently, and I hate my swimsuit. I just wanted something that fit well. They had a Peter Millar swimsuit, 40% off, fits me great, comfortable, nicest swimsuit I've ever had. That's the kind of place it is. And then this last weekend, I covered a Viking game, went from that to my band's gig at Flaherty's up in Arden Hills, wore a Peter Millar pullover, a Barakat t-shirt, jeans I bought at Twill that fit me great, and shoes I bought at Twill. Then the next day I covered a Twins game, wore a Peter Millar golf shirt, Peter Millar pullover. This is a Johnny O hat. Pants I bought at Twill, shoes I bought at Twill. Everywhere I go, when I go to my closet, it feels like everything I want to wear out once I get out of my sweats, everything I want to wear is something I bought at Twill. You'll have the same experience. Twill in the Dining Galleria, twillmn.com. Sign up for their email alerts. They'll only email you when they have a special deal. Right now, they have a lot of 40% off stuff. They don't have many sales. Right now, they have a lot of 40% off stuff because they're clearing out for fall. Go check it out. Say hello to Scott. He's a great guy. Now we want to hear from Talk North star Michael Russo for Clamshell Beach Resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
All right, so the receiving position is interesting. You have Addison going to miss 3 games. Jalen Naylor's dealing with a hand injury, and you have some guys rising or falling quickly on the depth chart week by week, it feels like. Who do you like in this competition?
It's really, it's become an unexpectedly precarious situation for me, Jim. Just kind of watching how this is all played out. First of all, let's just start here. Jordan Addison has looked great. Yeah. And when you think about, we knew that whatever penalty that he was going to get for the off the field stuff, we knew that it was going to be a loss when he was taken out of games. But I think now I look at the way that he's looked in practice and in preseason. I mean, that's a big loss. He looks ready to have kind of a real breakout season and become an incredibly productive. He's already been productive, but even take a big step forward. So that's a big loss right now. And then, Kevin O'Connell saying that Jalen Naylor is week to week, with a hand injury. A hand injury for a receiver is not a great thing. So who knows how that's going to be. And so in the absence of that, I'll be honest, I haven't been wowed by any of the other guys. I mean, by Ty Fulton, by Lucky Jackson, by any of these guys behind, Addison and Jefferson and Naylor to an extent, who always has injury problems. So I just think that we talked a little bit maybe last week about the possibility of them having to go outside the organization to find alternatives. And I think we might be there. I just looking at what we have seen from that group, in general, I don't see someone that you can say, yes, he can step in and be a bigger part of the offense for those 3 weeks while Addison is out, and then be a supplementary player. I don't know that guy is on the roster right now from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and Lucky Jackson did not help himself last week. Miles Price may have helped himself. Big kickoff return. He has talent. I don't know if he's polished enough as a receiver yet, but he's an interesting guy. Thayer Thomas has had a pretty good camp. Tim Jones has had a pretty good camp, but yeah, we're kind of searching for positives here. And maybe a veteran, again, either on waivers or somebody you get with a low draft pick, maybe a veteran who can just come in and catch the ball on 3rd and 5 might be a good addition to this group.
Yeah, I think so. It just feels like the Vikings may be holding their breath and hoping that some kind of semi-established veteran who, again, like, you may not even need him for the entire season, but at least someone who can come in for those first 3 or 4 weeks and help stabilize things and just give McCarthy another option who is reliable, who is going to be in the right place at the right time and is going to make the catches when the ball is thrown in his general direction. I think that is going to be something that this organization needs to really give a long, hard look at if there is someone out there. Who is that name? I don't know. I was looking at, I know that, in Tampa, I know Godwin just signed a big deal, but like, he's been injured and it's been, kind of slow to get back. And their rookie from Ohio State is really coming up. And so are there like some kind of cap casualties that could happen along those lines or along, someone else who is longer in the tooth? I know some, Vikings fans have brought up Adam Thielen a lot. I don't think he's going anywhere in Carolina, but a Thielen-like player who is at the end of his career, and can give you a few weeks and is not going to light the world on fire, but is just going to be someone that JJ McCarthy can trust. That's going to be key. Cause I don't think that you could say that he's built up trust in any of these young guys who are behind Naylor. Maybe Felton becomes that eventually, but that's asking a lot. And so, finding a veteran presence, it should be a big priority for the Vikings right now.
You know what? Let's save our discussion of the defensive backs for next week. I want to get in depth instead of just hitting on it quickly this week. Hey, I usually hate watching preseason games. I will say there's enough intrigue around some of these position battles that I'm actually interested this year. When you aren't sure who your backup quarterback is, preseason games get very interesting. When you're not sure who's going to play at receiver in the first 3 weeks, and there's still some intrigue at the defensive back position. Preseason is much more interesting to me this year than it is most years. So we will update you on what happens in the final preseason game. We'll get into the positional battles, what the final roster is going to look like. I'm guessing the Vikings will be making some kind of transactional news in the next week. We'll do all that next week. We appreciate you listening and watching to this show. Please check out the John Krawczynski Show. That's our Timberwolves and NBA show. TalkNorth.com is one of our most popular shows. Also check out Alec Lewis's Vikings show. He does a great job for us. And also check out Jeff Diamond's Vikings and NFL Insider with the former Vikings general manager. We also have Randy Shaver and Kevin Gorg doing our fantasy football show, which is a lot of fun, getting those guys in the same room. Also have Randy Shaver on high school football if you're interested in that. Mark Rosen's Sports Monday often touches on Vikings issues, and Dawn Mitchell's show, Dawn of Sports, often touches on Vikings issues. Check it all out. We have a great lineup, including Mr. Michael Russo, and we appreciate you watching and listening. We'll talk to you next week.